Guns, 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 my friends. Guns, guns, guns again.
Good morning, team, and this is the finish that we are going to be discussing today. Well, specifically, we're going to be discussing the potential application of Airbrushes to Cerakote work. Prerequisite-wise, this video is going to assume that you know how to lay down a solid finish. You know how to lay down a secondary coat over stencils. We'll see a little bit of that, but we're not going to go into detail. You can see that in some of my other videos. We are going to then mainly focus on, can airbrushes be used with Cerakote, and what are some of the potential applications and how are the results. So in this case, we are going to be using the airbrush to burst around the edge of our tiger stripe camo using a technique called wet on wet. You saw that a little bit in the cell shading Cerakote tutorial, but we'll go over it in a little bit different method here today. Before we get too deep, let's thank some sponsors that make this work possible. This video is part of my custom 350 Legend deer gun build series sponsored by Odinworks and Athlon Optics. But the sponsor of my Cerakote work, Paasche Airbrush, has something extra special planned for this episode. You can win both the HG08 HVLP and Talon airbrush kit you see me using on this finish if you're watching close enough to when this episode released. Entry is simple, with the details of how and by when down in the description. If that doesn't earn a like and subscribe, I don't know what will. I want to talk about what spawned this video though. If y'all are fans of the channel, then you already know that I use exclusively Paasche spray equipment. They're the same people that make the training gun that Cerakote sells. But I find that their standard guns that they sell, the HG08 for the 0.8mm nozzle, which Cerakote likes, I find that they're fantastic and they are very budget-minded, which you know my Cerakote setup likes to be. When I first started using Paasche stuff, they actually ended up sending me a couple of airbrushes. So this is one that I haven't used yet. I wanted to put a nice one on camera. The other one is all grimy and covered in Cerakote residue. But I actually questioned whether there would be a good application for that in my work. I wasn't really sure how or where to use them. So I had played with them up till now, but I hadn't really applied them to a project specifically. So this is the first place we're going to do that. It is worth noting that if you're gonna get an airbrush, this one's still apart from when I used it yesterday for this project, but I suggest you get a little kit and not just the singular airbrush. That's because the kit is the only one that comes with the 0.6mm needle and nozzle. Cerakote does like a larger nozzle. Like I said, it's 0.08 on the HVLP guns. I do think that that is a good addition. I did use the 0.6mm nozzle. Okay, to start the instructional, prerequisite done. We have a beautiful base coat, in this case Magpul Flat Dark Earth, and I have gone and laid down my stencils. There's a couple things that I want to point out here specifically though. You will see that I have the top rail also masked off, and that's because that is staying solid FDE. And then on top of that, you'll notice that even though I have stencils that are crossing the two pieces of the receiver, I am planning to paint the receiver separated out into those two pieces. I'll talk about more why in the results and outcome section, but here all I want to do is talk about the technique. So I actually had the two halves of the receiver close together, separated them by a little under 1/8 of an inch, laid out all of my stencils, and then used a very sharp razor blade just to cut right between where the two parts met. That allowed me to not only separate them, but fold over the stencils a little bit. You'll also notice that I have a screw in the grip screw hole of the lower. And that's because when it comes time to do the airbrushing work, we're going to really want to be able to control the piece very nicely. And so that is going to give me something that I can actually hold on to while I'm doing the brush work. So it'll be hanging from the left end and I'll be holding onto that screw so I can manipulate it and it's not swinging around on me. The reason I don't have something like that in the upper is because I can hang it again from a hole on the bottom left, and I can stick my fingers inside or on the threads of the barrel nut threads, and I can manipulate it there because that's a non-show face. I know I said that spraying a secondary color over stencils is part of the prerequisite for this. However, I'm going to go over it really quickly since we're here. And if you win this particular spray gun, I can talk about some of the settings. So what I'll do to start, I will set my air to 0, completely closed off. And then I'm going to set a volume to fan ratio of 2 to 1. In this case, 1 turn of volume with a half turn of fan. I'm then going to back open the air a tiny bit, just like if we were doing like spot spraying. And I'm going to keep opening the air and potentially lowering the volume until I'm just getting full atomization. So just that point where any splatter mark goes away, and I'm getting a fairly low amount of volume because we don't want to build up a second color too thick, but the air is spraying hard enough that it's, like I said, there's no spot marks. It's a full atomization. That is where I'm going to go and spray the piece. Obviously, if you think you get to that and you go over to spray on the receiver like I did here and it's not right, you do have time to correct it. Go back, fiddle with your settings. I said in the intro that we are going to do a wet on wet application, and that means that after we've sprayed our second color, we're just going to let it cure in the air for about 15 minutes. We are not going to do any oven cure. We are going to bring that back, and this is where we're going to do the airbrushing. To set up our airbrush, I highly recommend not just practicing beforehand, but also literally right before you go to spray, do some practice then. A lot of this is technique, not just how you set up the spray gun. And so that's really going to determine the quality of your output. So here I have the weeded out section of my stencils put up on my test board, and I'm basically just doing some practice work and setting up my gun. All I'm doing here is I'm setting up the amount of material that's coming out of the gun when I press down on my double action trigger, and that is through the screws on the back of the airbrush. And I'm testing to see if it's putting out the amount of Cerakote that I would expect. And I'm looking for a couple things. One, I do not want something very wet here. That is going to make a shinier colored fade where it's thicker than potentially the other matte stuff, the other colors that I've laid down already. I also don't want to add a lot of thickness here. And also, the lighter you go on, the easier it is to get a consistent fade. And the reason for that is if I lay it on thick and I screw up, there you go. It's on there. I can't take it off without removing the entire finish. Whereas if I put it on light and it's too light in that area, I can come back and I can just do another pass. So it's a lot safer. The other reason it's really nice to do test work beforehand is you can actually pull off that stencil from your test board and you can see how your work is before you actually go to your final project. And here we have it. I've got the upper receiver hanging, and I'm going to start airbrushing. My particular way of doing it, whether this is the best way or not, I'll describe. So basically I'm, if at all possible, starting off of the piece and kind of brushing my way onto it. It is not a hold down the button and move around type of flow. It's not like an HVLP gun where I'm pulling the trigger and I'm going. This is more like a psst, 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 psst. I'm feathering it on almost. So I'll do like a pull onto the trigger as I'm moving and then back off. Pull on and back off, pull on and back off. So it's like a series of small bursts that I'm painting with. And the reason I like starting off of the stencil is in case I start in the wrong spot, it's not end of world. I'm still not perfect with my aim. And that allows me to come onto it and then like loop back a little bit before doing that next little burst. And so it's like these tiny little clockwise circles I make almost, where I spray on, take my finger off, move back, and then come back. And all I'm doing here is trying to get a feather around the outside. You don't have to be a perfect black where your second color touches the stencil. This is just to highlight. Obviously, if you get a perfect black, great. But trust me, a little black here will go a long way. I'm going to show you my first attempt at this, and it was completely overly heavily handed, and I learned to kind of cut back on the aggressiveness of my fading. And that's not an airbrush thing specifically, but more of a what makes a good faded, feathered, bursted, whatever you want to call it, tiger stripe or not. But that's the technique, pretty simple. And at any point in time, if you need to adjust, obviously go back to your board, change your settings. Because this is H-series Cerakote, we are going to do it exactly the same as always. We are going to let it air cure when we are done with our bursting for 15 minutes. We are then going to put it in an oven at the same temperature that we did the initial cure for our base coat. And the reason is sheen is dependent on initial cure temp. So for this, we're doing everything at 150 to 160-ish. It'll be a nice matte sheen that's locked in. After about 20 minutes in the oven at that temperature, I am going to pull it out. We are going to pull our stencils and any other masking, like for the pick rail. And that's because they will not survive the higher temperatures we're going to do our final cure at. And I will also take just a paper towel that's got a little, grit to it, and I always rub the area where the stencils come off because it's hard cured at this point. It's completely tack free, and I'll actually rub to get any residue of where the paint and the stencil met off, and then I'll blow it off to get any paper towel residue off, and that just makes ever so slightly cleaner edges in my opinion. And then put it in at full temp, 250, for 2 hours to final cure it. All said and done, what do I think of the result? I'm actually pretty happy. This actually took 2 tries, so let's talk about why it took 2 tries, what I did wrong, where I pivoted and learned, and why I'm happy with the end result. On the first try of this, a couple things went wrong. One, I was doing a bunch of experimentation for the cell shading episode at the very same time that day, and so my head was kind of elsewhere and I was paying too much attention to that, and I ended up probably over curing my base coat to the point that I had adhesion issues with the second coat, especially around holes where pins came through. So that was a problem, but that has nothing to do with this. The other problem that I had is my finish ended up going on very thick, and specifically around where the airbrushing was. You can see that I was very heavy-handed with the airbrush at this point in time. Not only did it almost cover up the entirety of the second color, but it also had shiny areas where I had really laid it down thick, whereas you can see here, what we're really going for is just that shadow effect, not really trying to do area coverage with the color. And that has to do with just practice. I had airbrushed years and years and years ago, and so I thought, like riding a bike, I'll be able to do it. That was by no means the case. So I really, really, really encourage you to do a lot of practice with the airbrush prior to going on a project. Trust me, it's cheaper, faster, and easier to practice than to completely strip a Cerakote job and redo it. Just go ahead and trust me on that one. And the other thing is, you'll see in this video that I also practiced right before doing this job. So it's not just practice ahead of time, it's practice before doing, so that you are ready to go. Now, can I still get better? Like, is my burst even here versus over here? No. Same with here versus here? No. So a steady hand is something that you get over time, but the only way that you're going to get that is by practicing and actually doing projects. So I'm happy with this result. I like it, but it took a bit of work to get here. The other things I learned from the first project, I actually did the second color as well as the bursting with the pieces together, and they were held by like a pin up here, and I did them together. There's some pros and cons to doing that versus separate like I did these two. Now obviously when I say separate, I mean I put the stencils on together and then I cut them with a razor blade and then sprayed them separately. But the real reason that I really didn't like spraying them together was specifically on an AR, getting into areas like this when those pieces are together and not getting a thick finish because you're just really trying to get into a tight spot to cover color. It's almost impossible. And so spraying them separately allowed me that leisure. However, there are pros and cons to both methods. As you can see here, because I was spraying them separately, I did forget about some places where geometry of my stencils interacts. So I have my burst on this piece here, but it doesn't carry over into the upper because I didn't see that stencil when I was spraying this, and thus I forgot. So pros and cons, figure out which you like best. The second thing that I learned was I actually did swatches of all the possible color combinations of all three of these colors that I was using, because I really did not like the orange base color with FDE as my secondary color and then the burst. So I actually used these mock-ups to figure out which one I liked best, and I did two versions of them. I did it with the kind of the tiger stripes spread out a bit and together. I just used Inkscape. It's free, it's easy, and I ended up thinking that the best possible option for me was FDE as my base coat, orange as my top with the black burst. I also wanted to somewhat subdue the orange, and so I came up with the concept of just blocking off the rail at the top, and I think I really like that. It also gave me a nice solid edge to do a cool burst effect against. So I thought that was a really good idea. And of course it ties directly into the color of the rail that goes up front, that Odinworks Ruin rail. And we'll have a lot of FDE, like the grip, the stock, etc. And as always, since our Cerakote 201 video, we do analyze how we did on actual application. And that's going to lead to the last thing that I want to show you guys and sort of reiterate as a learning point. So let's start with what our base coat was. We're going to check the thickness on the FDE only. So we had a really nice base coat go down anywhere from like 0.5 to 0.6 something. That is an absolutely stellar thickness to use for a multicolor finish. Here's where things went a little wrong. I know it may not seem like it, but orange and FDE are actually quite color similar when you're under bright lights. I know that's going to sound really weird, but they are. And so being able to see when I was fully covered over the FDE was difficult, and that led to, wait for it, almost the same thickness in orange, which should have been just a light dusting, as I had for my base coat, which is a structural coat. Why is that bad? Well, 0.6 for a color coat is not horrible until you add something else in. So let's look at the black. So now we're up to 1.7. That means we've got, where the black and the orange are both meeting, we've got about a mil of thickness. And that is enough to do two things. I do have a slight ridge, not as bad as most companies that I see, like large companies that Cerakote, but there is a ridge. Pause. To be clear, all of these numbers are stellar, and the layering of all three colors is still under the 2 mil max spec Cerakote says to aim for. It just highlights how much more rigorous we must be when doing more complex styles if we're aiming for perfection and holding ourselves to a higher standard. And this is where the last thing about orange comes in. Orange is an extremely unforgiving color, like brutally unforgiving. One, like I said, it's difficult to see when you have coverage of it, even though the orange is so aggressive that it does give good coverage. So you've got this weird psychological thing going on where you're not sure you're doing okay when you probably actually are. The other thing about orange is because it's so bright, that tiny half mil of thickness, you can kind of see, there you go, you can kind of see just a little hint of orange at the edge. Although we did a great job with everything, you do still see what I consider a slight imperfection, which is the ability to see that orange at the edge of the FDE before you get into the black. I mean, like I said, I believe that is just from the fact that it's ever so slightly thick, and so you're actually seeing the side of the orange. All in all, though, functionally, it works. What doesn't work here ended up just being a couple technique things and just a need for continued learning. But I did like using the airbrush. I need a little more practice so I get everything nice and even, but I think I'll put it on more projects in the future.